All right, what is up, everybody? I am excited to be going over this new deck that I've been messing around with. It's essentially an OTK with MECHA'THUN, so hope you guys are strapped in and ready for the ride, because this is one hell of a deck. It's basically a mind for lack of a better term. The reason I say that is because it very much fits my personality. I am definitely one to not plan, as pretty much all of my friends would tell you and tell myself, and this deck kind of plays to that a little bit. Usually with OTKs, you are aiming for the same 3, 4, 5, or 6 cards in your hand at the end of the game to basically get your opponent down to 0 health in one turn. That is kind of the case in this, because I could rattle off, 4 cards that would win the game if you had them in your hand at the end of the game. However, the way that this deck is built is that you can basically play any of these cards in any order and still most likely pull out a victory come the last turn of the game, as long as your deck is empty. So there's numerous cards in the deck that play to this strength. Downside to it, I will admit, is that it becomes increasingly harder towards the end of the game to figure this out. What I mean by that is, obviously in the beginning of the game, it means you can play whatever you want, but as you get down to the last 10 or 8 cards in your deck, you really have to think every turn of what you can use, what you can't use, and what you need to use in order to actually win the game. Heard of MECHA'THUN, now is the time. It's basically a win condition when you play it. If it dies and triggers its death rattle while you have no cards in your hand, no cards on the field, and no cards in your deck, you win the game. Or in the words of the card, you destroy the enemy hero. So it's pretty awesome. I love alternate win conditions. I also love to play the Paladin OTK Tiger deck, basically the Holy Wrath with the Shirvala Tiger. If you guys haven't seen that deck, definitely check it out on YouTube. I will put a link below in the description. Let's get back into the MECHA'THUN deck. Whoa. Hold up. Before we continue, please remember to like this video and subscribe if you like the video. And if you like what you're hearing, like what you're seeing, go ahead and subscribe to my channel. Appreciate all the support from absolutely everybody. With this deck, what you're going to want to do is obviously have MECHA'THUN in the very last turn of the game. Now, the problem with MECHA'THUN is obviously that it costs 10 mana, and it also has 10 attack and health. So your first question is, well, how do you kill this thing when it has 10 health and also play it for 10 mana? I mean, essentially that's all your mana on, your 10th turn, as long as you have, it is past your 10th turn, obviously. And that becomes difficult. What you need to do, and this is probably the first core key component to this deck, is reduce the cost of MECHA'THUN. As long as you can reduce the cost of MECHA'THUN, you are usually good to go. There is some way that you can win the game. So with this deck, and I love this about the new set, and I love this about the new GALAKROND, and I'll probably toy with GALAKROND in multiple other OTK decks for this reason, if I can find some other combo, is that GALAKROND has the great effect of making a card cost absolutely nothing. So that's the first way to reduce it. Now, the downside, or the thing that's missing from GALAKROND's effect, is mainly that MECHA'THUN still has 10 attack and 10 health. So this is the one thing in the game, because GALAKROND you do not have to get off. You do not have to draw MECHA'THUN with GALAKROND, because obviously that's not guaranteed. If you play GALAKROND at any point of the game, you could draw any 1, 2, or 4 cards, and you could also draw MECHA'THUN prior to drawing GALAKROND. So that's not what we're relying on here. What we are relying on is always drawing Ankha the Buried as well as MECHA'THUN, and then playing Ankha on MECHA'THUN. So Ankha will get MECHA'THUN down to 1 cost, and what it also does is neat little effect of reducing it to 1 attack and 1 health. That's what absolutely must happen in order for this deck to go off. So the only thing that you really need to worry about is making sure that your opponent does not mill your deck. What I mean by that is your hand, because of the way this deck is built, obviously you're trying to draw a lot of cards to get to this combo ASAP. The way the deck is built, it is constantly having your hand full or near full, as well as having possibly other draw cards on the field. So as you can see here, you know, I have a Loot Hoarder and a Blood Mage on the field with 7 cards in my hand. He killed both, and now I'm up to 9. So I had to obviously think ahead and know that, okay, if he does manage to kill both, I need to have 3 card slots available, because once my turn comes up, I'm going to draw my 10th card. You do not want to be in a situation where your opponent can mill cards. I actually played against a mage deck, and they have that project card. I forget the name of it off the top of my head. Costs 2 mana. Both players draw 2 cards. That kind of screwed me. Not because I milled a card, but because they played it when my deck was empty at the end of the game, and I took a ton of damage. So it made it difficult for me to survive the last 1 or 2 turns that I needed to in order to get the combo off. So always take that into consideration when you're playing MECHA'THUN, either this deck or any MECHA'THUN deck for that matter. So with that said, that's what you have to get off. You have to get off Ankha and MECHA'THUN. So the other good thing with the GALAKROND portion of this deck, which is what I like, is that you can guarantee a cleared field with Kronk's Dragonhoof. So what Kronk's is able to do is essentially, when you play him, you get to pick a devastation. One of the devastations is deal 5 to everything, not just your opponent's minions, but everything. So that means that your whole field will go bye-bye, sans Kronk's. The way to get by that is there's other cards in this deck, such as Voodoo Doll and Walk the Plank, that will allow you to kill Kronk's after you've actually played Kronk's. So essentially, Kronk's kills the whole field. Now you're left with Kronk's, and the idea is that you either have a Voodoo Doll or a Walk the Plank in your hand to take care of Kronk's prior to playing whatever MECHA'THUN combo you have. MECHA'THUN Backstab, whatever it might be. Because we're playing Kronk's, most of these monsters in here have 5 or less health. The one exception is actually Tunnel Blaster. I've been on and off about including Tunnel Blaster. Another card I was actually including at one point was the 8/8 Death Rattle, restore 8 health, and it became an issue obviously because I couldn't kill it. Tunnel Blaster, same deal. So most of the time, what I found myself doing was playing Tunnel Blaster. If I drew it early game, I was trying to get it out ASAP. The other thing is Ankha. If you do play Ankha, you want to try to play it towards the end of the game when you have the Tunnel Blaster still in your hand, because it will reduce it to a 1/1/1 cost. So not only does it make it easier for you to dispose of your entire hand, it also makes it very easy to kill. So other things I was playing with is like you can see here, I was playing Abomination. Abomination will clear the field. So if you have a bunch of 1/1/1s and you play Abomination, and let's say you backstab the Abomination will kill the rest of the Death Rattle effects on the field, some of which might restore your health, since there's a lot of health restoration in this deck, and it accomplishes the same thing in clearing your field. So like I said, there's like literally with all the cards that are in this deck, there's a million ways to actually obtain this win condition with MECHA'THUN, which is what I think is the most fun part of this deck. I was winning, and I was winning against, as you can see, some decent decks. This seems like it's kind of a random deck that I was playing against in here on this video right now, but I was playing against a lot of mage aggro decks. I went 50-50 against Shaman. We all know Shaman has a high win percentage right now, Shaman GALAKROND, so it was doing pretty good. So Alright, so switch gears a little bit. I'm going to kind of walk you through what's happening here towards the end. Obviously, you can see I set myself up. I got 2 cards left in my deck. I have the deck tracker on the right for a reason, because, oh my god, is it hard to keep track in your head of all the cards in this deck. So, now, one of the issues with Gadgets and Auctioneer is obviously at the end of the game, you might draw too many cards. So, one of the things you want to try to prepare to do is kill it off with your own cards, like I just did myself. So, you can see I'm already thinking ahead in my hand. I have the 2 Voodoo Dolls. I have the Backstab. I have the MECHA'THUN. So the combo is essentially going to be Voodoo Doll, MECHA'THUN, and then Backstab the first Voodoo Doll, and then it chain reactions and kills all of them. But before I can do that, I have to get rid of the Shield of GALAKROND, as well as the Umbral Skulker, which I just played. and that just gives me more coins, which is not a big deal. Obviously, I can just, you know, shed those off whenever I want. So you can see this is kind of the turn before it looks like the last turn of the game. The other thing that is sometimes a pain with this deck, and again, this is what makes it so interesting and really difficult to play, is some of the all of the Galakrond cards, because they invoke Galakrond, they always are going to add an additional card to your hand. So one of the reasons why, Seal Fate as an example, Seal Fate does 3 damage. The issue is that it invokes as well. So, and it'll deal 3 damage to anybody. So theoretically, I could use Seal Fate on a Voodoo Doll. However, if I do that, let's say I used it for my last turn, which is going to come up in a second, to kill the MECHA'THUN, it means the MECHA'THUN's Death Rattle is going to trigger with me having a Lackey in my hand, and it will not destroy the enemy hero. So you can see here, so I was wrong. It actually took me 2 more turns because I had to get rid of the lackeys in my hand. I played another Umbral Skulker, and now I'm at the point where I can just unload my hand. So I think maybe the next turn. Is that right? Yeah? Yep. Yeah, so here you go. So now I'm just going to unload the coins, play the MECHA'THUN, Voodoo, Backstab, and that's game. So that's just one way to win. I mean, there's a million other ways that I could have won with this deck. It's ridiculous. Like I said, it is very difficult to play, though. This next game is actually pretty funny. Towards the end of the game, one thing you got to remember is that if you have a weapon, you need to use it, because if you try to end the game with MECHA'THUN with a weapon, it's not going to trigger. So that's one of the reasons why there's only 1 Necreum Blade in this deck. I was playing around with 2 Necreum Blades, but having too many weapons, you have to make sure you're using them too often. It just wasn't good. So I decided to cut it for something else that was a little bit more reliable. You can see the second game too, the deck is much different. It's got more Death Rattle focus, so this one has Necreum Apothecary, an Arena Treasure Chest, which is draw 2 cards. I think in the final deck that I actually have now, which I'm going to post a link down below in the description if you guys are interested. I'm also going to put the full deck list. That was also cut maybe for something else, I'm not sure. But there's so many different ways to play this deck. I think one of my favorite ways to play this was actually full-on Gadgetzan Auctioneer, the Umbral Skulkers, and just like going off, because you could get so many coins on a Gadgetzan Auctioneer, draw so many cards in 1 turn, and it actually wasn't too much draw. So one of the problems with the deck that you're seeing right now, believe it or not, is that it draws too much. A lot of the time towards the end of the game, I'd have like a Shiv left over, and if I had an Arena Treasure Chest, I mean, I was screwed. Now I'm at the point where I need to not only get rid of the treasure chest, but I also need to have the 2 cards left in my deck to draw, which is not fun. So that's how I lost a few games, was actually having the Arena Treasure Chest, which kind of screwed me. However, I did also win some games because of having the Arena Treasure Chest, or because of hitting Arena Treasure Chest with Necreum Apothecary, which is super OP in the beginning of the game, because once that hits even 1 time, you have so many cards in your hand that are just going to draw you even more cards. You usually have drawn your whole deck by like turn 10. And you can see here, I'm just about to go on to turn 10. I have a treasure chest in my hand, and I'm down to 12 cards in my deck, and I got Galakrond in my hand, which is probably going to draw at least 2, if not 4 cards. So you can see I'm already towards kind of the end of the game here. And this is where also, you know, when you have 10 cards left in your deck, this is the point where I'm starting to think to myself, oh man, all right, what should I get rid of? What should I keep? What do I gotta like make sure I don't use? One of the other problems, there's 2 things right now that I'm usually considering when playing this deck in particular, this second version of it. The first one is using the draw cards now while I can, which is exactly why I played Fan of Knives there. I probably should have played something else with lower mana because he had a counter spell, but that's besides the point. I'm trying to get rid of the draw cards because I don't want to have to play them at the very end of the game. I want to draw all my cards as fast as possible so that it speeds up the game and gets me to a point where I have used all my draw cards by the time I have no deck left. That's the ultimate goal. Yeah, I know that might be stupid to mention, but you know, I gotta say it. It's one of the most important things with this deck. The other thing is obviously making sure that some of these bigger monsters like Karthus Defender, which I just drew one of, Rotten Apple Bomb, that if I'm not using Anka, which it looks like I'm thinking about doing right here, or it looks like I want Galakron instead, that if I can't get the Anka on them, like let's say I already used Anka earlier and now I have a Tunnel Blaster that's in my hand, I need to get that out onto the field ASAP. Not because I need to destroy it, that's one of the reasons, but also just because it's such a heavy mana cost. It's not something that's going to be easy for me to play towards the last couple of turns of the game, which is going to become a problem when I'm trying to get towards MECHA'THUN and actually win the game. So, and last but not least, Galakron. I went back and forth about Galakron so many times. Like, should he be in the deck? Should he not be in the deck? Because sometimes it's too much draw. Basically, I think he should. I think I'm going to try to make a different version of this without Galakron. However, and I know the Octasari version is one of the more popular ones, but as long as you play Galakron early to either draw 1 or draw 2, you're usually pretty good. The problem with drawing 4 is that usually your hand's already too big to even draw 4, and if you go to draw 4, you're going to overdraw, or you're just going to tank through your deck way too fast and still have too much draw left over. So, like I said, that's kind of where the difficulty in this deck lies, that you have to kind of space everything out perfectly. At the end here is what I was talking about, which I almost screwed up royally. I still have a dagger left over. I'm all like, yeah, I'm going to win. We're good. We're golden. And then I'm like, oh, shit. So I attack, and I'm like, I pray to God he can't do more damage. Doesn't look like he could. I attack again. I end up winning the game. So overall, awesome deck. Loved playing it. Hope you guys can build it and love playing it too.